Yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose.
Imagine if a single policy could tip the scales of global trade and breathe new life into American industry. In 2024, our nation faced a jaw-dropping $1.2 trillion trade deficit. Yes, trillion with a T, a capital T. And some say $1.4 trillion with fees. Then on April 2nd, 2025, President Trump declared Liberation Day. And no, this isn't just another political buzzword. It's a call to reclaim our economic destiny with a bold set of tariffs. On Liberation Day, Trump rolled out a two-tier tariff system. The first tier is a simple, universal 10% tariff on all imports, effective April 5th, 2025. But here's where it gets interesting. The second tier introduces reciprocal tariffs. In other words, for every high tariff foreign nations impose on U.S. goods, the U.S. is hitting back with roughly half that rate.
The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to
I'm letting
treat our
Trump
sick.
speak here, so you can see it in his own words back in the day and going forward. This is fair use.
We wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind. You're not so kind when you got ripped off salaries. My auto worker friends and my Teamster friends and all of the unions that typically voted Democrat, they're not voting Democrat anymore because worker, whether union or non-worker, they're for the Republicans now. That's what happened. But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries who didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it.
Let's take a quick journey through time. Back in 2007, the financial crisis sent shockwaves to our economy, and the trade deficit dipped as markets struggled. Fast forward to March 2020, the pandemic hit, and our deficit ballooned as global supply chains unraveled. The Biden years, from 2021 to 2025, saw efforts to stabilize, but challenges persisted. And then in March 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine added even more uncertainty. Finally, in 2025, President Trump steps in with a plan to cut through this chaos. It's been a wild ride, and now we're aiming for balance. What you're seeing here is an exclusive. This in green is the original list that President Trump, Lutnick, and Bessent did not show the public. Why? Well, if you go through this, you will notice Russia, Mexico, and Canada are missing. Why? Because the U.S. is hitting them in various ways on different products to stop them bringing in illegal drugs and or allowing illegal drugs to come into America. I mentioned this in my previous video, so please check them out. Also, notice that it shows which countries have been hitting the USA with the highest tariffs to the lowest. That's why the first one you see are highest, and you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised who's hitting us at 99%. Some of the smaller countries, because they figure they have a smaller market, try to think get over on us and get away with, smacking us in the tourist industry. Not anymore. Now, on to the meat of the matter. The reciprocal tariffs. These tariffs are a direct response to the trade barriers other countries have been putting on U.S. goods. For example, China charges around 67% on average, sometimes higher or lower, on U.S. exports, which is an import to them. So the U.S. is responding with a 34% tariff, see, almost half. And Vietnam, well, they hit us with 90%. So now they're hitting them back with 46%. And for countries like the EU, European Economic Union, which imposes about 39%, U.S. tariff is set at 20%. And you can see the list goes on, with tariffs ranging from 10% for our fair weather partners, all the way up to 50% for the biggest offenders, and even the 99% one at the top you can see in the green. It's like the ultimate, you get what you give in international trade, And so, Trump's a retaliator, and so is Bess and the rest of them. There you go. So, how does all this tie into our overall economic health? Let's break it down. Gross domestic product, or GDP, measures all goods and services produced within our borders. While our gross national product, GNP, accounts for what our citizens produce no matter where they are, like trading Bitcoin outside of America, working in a factory somewhere, or, anything in and outside. Now, by reducing the trade tariffs deficit with these tariffs, the goal is to encourage domestic production, ultimately boosting both GDP and GNP. In essence, when we spend more here at home, we're investing in our own future instead of sending money abroad and paying fees and giving it to someone else. Trump argues that by countering the high tariffs imposed on U.S. goods, we can rebalance trade and strengthen our economy, which textbook-wise work. He did it before, and this has been done like multiple times before. And while there's debate, the hope is that this strategy will lead to more jobs, higher incomes, and stronger national economy overall. And it's already happening. Now, I showed you the original list that they didn't show to the public, the one in green. Oh, here is the list that Lutnick, Bessent, and President Donald J. Trump gave to the public on Liberation Day, April 2nd. Notice it is different than the exclusive one I gave you, I showed you, right? Well, here's their playbook from the April 2nd announcement.
China, 67%. European Union, 39%.
Letting Trump
Vietnam,
speak here, 90%. So you can see it in his own words, back in the day
64%, we're going to
and
charge
going
them
forward.
32%.
This is
Japan,
fair
46%. They would charge us 46%. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. They charge us 52%. Switzerland, 61% to 31%. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. United Kingdom, 10%. South Africa, 60%, 30%. And Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot.
The U.S. will impose a universal 10% tariff on all imports starting April 5th, like I said, and reciprocal tariffs will take place on April 9th. That would be tomorrow, if you're looking at this on today, which is the 8th. For instance, China, 34%, European Union, 20%, Vietnam, 46%, Japan, 24%, and India, 26%. In other words, this is an additional tariff we're going to hit them with. So it's going to be for over 180 nations, 184 nations, okay? That's what it is. And these numbers represent a calculated response to years of trade imbalance, a bold attempt to level the international playing field. Now, look at these countries, how well they're doing and their economy's doing. Notice how these countries have grown from sapping our GDP and GNP and making us lose. As Liberation Day unfolds, the impact on our trade deficit, GDP, and GNP will become clear. The administration's proactive approach aims to revitalize American industry and create a fair trading environment, okay? So will these tariffs pave the way for a stronger, more self-reliant economy? That's a $1 million question, but I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think these measures will finally put America on a path to economic renewal, or are there potential pitfalls we can't ignore? Drop your opinions in the comments below, please. And if you found us enlightening, hit that like button and subscribe for more analysis and policy that shape our future, okay? Remember, this is Money, Markets, and Business Explained. That's what we do. We explain what's going to happen in those markets, how the money's flowing, and the business of it all. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you for it. And also because it helps the algorithm reach more people. Thank you. Once again, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and it helps out the algorithm. And remember, life is beautiful because of you, not because of these companies or tariffs or any politics. You make life beautiful. Thank you.